Reggie. Well, Santana, aside from not knowing much about the Wheel of Fortune, I can tell you though, and you probably know this, you're going to be playing in the U alumni game.
Yeah.
Talk about kind of the trash talking or competitive spirit. Because I know you guys love each other, but at
Yeah.
the same token,
It might be real competitive, knowing I have Reggie and Vilma. Yeah, that's two competitive guys, so it might be real competitive. But at the same time, this is my first experience here, so I got to kind of, slowly get into it because I don't know what to expect out of it so far.
So you guys are obviously as a brotherhood off the field, but kind of talk about when push comes to shove and you got one more spin left. What's going to go through your mind there?
I don't know, but I know if it's depending on my team and we need it, and I'm trying to go for the team. Whatever it counts, whatever it is that we got to do, I'm gonna try to be there for 'em. And pretty much, regardless of what we shared, going to the U, being who we known to be right now in this league, it's all about who I'm going for. Doing this little segment, and I got to go for them.
Hey, speaking of which, what charity are you going to be playing for, and kind of describe why and that type of
Well,
thing.
I'm playing for the Santana Moss Foundation, and what my foundation really is about, it's about the kids that pretty much that grew up in the neighborhoods that I grew up in, that grew up in the city. It's just teaching them how to believe and know that something could come out of what we experience. You know what I mean? Growing up in Miami, everyone hear about South Beach. They don't really know the struggle of a lot of kids like myself went through or are going through. So what I try to do is like every year, bring the guys that I, probably play against or have played with back to the community. And, I have a little function for them, little carnivals, little things I might have them do throughout the year while I'm playing, like little essays to win rewards and stuff like that, just to, know that a guy like myself is thinking about them and just knowing that, letting them know that if they believe in what, they want to do in life, that they can get anything that they believe in. And that's something that I did, from day one. I always was a firm believer of what I want to be and what I want to do. And, it became, what I'm doing. So I try to make sure that I have everything and anything that I have when it comes to time, money, whatever it is, just to be there for these kids, just knowing them that they have a guy backing them.
Do you still feel that in you? I mean, the fact that you still remember your roots and kind of feel that hunger each time you go on the field.
Every day. I mean, when we fail to realize that what we do is not promise. It's nothing saying that we should be doing what we do. So being a guy like myself that's known as a lot of guys out there that I grew up with that might be just as good as I am, or might be even better, that didn't have the opportunity. When I talk to some of those guys over the phone that I'm close friends with, I let them know off the top I'm playing for them. Really I'm playing for a lot of other reasons, but just let them know that I'm also knowing that they had opportunity, but it didn't go as well as planned, and that if they can play through me, then do that. And it just goes the same way for these kids. I see a lot of these kids, they look up to all of us and they see us on TV and they see the things that we do football and they think that's the way to be. But, they really don't get to know the person beyond that football field. And what I try to do is show them Santana outside of those paths, show them my heart, let them know that I'm thinking about them as well as they're rooting for me. I'm thinking that, hey, if I can just bring a little cheer, a little joy to their every day of life and every day of thinking, that's the least I can do for them.
Is the fact that because of your stature, I mean, does that help you? It's like I mean, you've been an underdog your whole life almost.
Yeah.
Ranging from your upbringing to the fact that you're always one of the shortest guys on the team. Does that help your hunger as well?
Well, it helped. It helped then, but once you do what you do for so long, it's almost like if you put the time in as those other guys, then you feel like it's given or it's due to you. And that's what I said to myself that as long as I go out there and compete, as long as I go out there and put in the hours that every other guy on this field putting in, then what's given to me is due to me, and that's the only way you're gonna get something out of life. That's period. Beyond the football field, beyond any sport you play, it's about what you put into it. You get out of it.
What do you attribute the success this year to? I mean, this has really been a breakout year for you.
Just knowing that I had another chance. I mean, I felt that my stint in New York went well. It probably didn't go as well as I would like it to, but when you have an opportunity to be yourself and do the things that you know in yourself of doing throughout your career, then that's all you can, pretty much expect of what I'm doing. And, I had the opportunity 2003 to do these things and did it. And last year didn't go as planned. I mean, I didn't have the opportunity. So, my number was called again. I got, a chance to go to a new team. And pretty much the way I took it going to a new team is this is my chance to start off the right way, the way I want to start off. And that's what I did. I made sure I put in the time when it came to the off season and leading up to the first day of minicamp, first day of training camp. I made sure that when I stepped on the field, everything was behind me. Let's move forward.
Who had the most influence with you in your transition to the Redskins? And was it a guy like Coach Gibbs or Mark? Or
Tell you the truth, man, when it all went down, I mean, the only thing that I can say is that, thinking about where I was going and where I was going to be, who's going to be my coach, I could say Coach Gibbs was the guy that I looked at out of everything because I didn't know what else to expect of the team. I knew I had a couple of guys from the youth, that are reporters and, Sean Taylor, but I didn't know what to expect, how they was going to embrace me, how, who I was going to be under, who I was going to be looking up to. And when it comes to a team, I think every player has to look at that coach first and see what his whole mindset and his whole plan. I mean, I think when I first came in, he's a coach that, everyone knows his history. He's one of the best, in the game, and he's coming back. And what I said to myself is that this is almost like his second chance, And last year wasn't, as well as playing for him, I bet. But this year, the transactions and the moves he made, trying to get this team back to where it had been in the past, I feel like, I was fortunate to be one of those guys to be able to come over here and help him do that. So, I mean, right off the top, I was just privileged to be able to be looked at by a guy that has seen so many players in his day that have played, that coached some of the greats and given me opportunity to be on his team and thinking up highly if he thought of me just to be able to go out there on the field and do the things I'm doing.
I know team with you obviously comes first, but how important would that be to you to hear your name called out to go to Honolulu at the end of the year?
It'll be great, man. Pretty much like I said before, what you put in, you get out of it. And I think I put a lot in. I think I was an alternate 2 years before. I was an alternate as a punt returner in 2002. I was the first alternate as a receiver in 2003. And just being an alternate, it was great for me because knowing that, hey, I was noticed on the level of those other guys. I mean, if I didn't go, I couldn't expect no more. And I just felt that I was honored just to be on that level with those guys. But to get a chance to go over there, I would like the experience. I would like for my family to experience, and I would just like to, be able to go out there and see what it's all about to be a Pro Bowler. And, I think when you play to that level, then it's due. And it's credit to those guys who play at that level. And I would enjoy the experience, put it like that.
Hey, speaking of fans, and they obviously vote for Pro Bowl. You've been a fantasy football wonder. We're doing a show on fantasy football. From players' perspectives, fans have got to come up to you now and tell you some pretty crazy things. Can you share with us some things that fans have said to you about that whole crazy culture?
This whole football thing nowadays is all fantasy. I mean, guys, they care less if you win or losing right now. They just say, hey, I got you on my fantasy. Give me 100. Give me 2 touchdowns. I need 4 touchdowns from you. You hear all type of things, and you laugh at it, but at the same time, you take it and say, you know what? They counting on me. And it's hard to sit here and say that, but you got a lot of guys on your team that's counting on you also, but to hear those guys come up to you, I mean, you just go out there and say, I'll do the best for you, man, you know what I mean? And I take it as, hey, I appreciate being on your fantasy, but I know how it goes, you know what I mean? Hey, we only want you because what you're doing, you know what I'm saying? And that's why I'm on your fantasy, but at the same time, man, I appreciate it, and I don't knock them for what they're doing, because if I was in their shoes, I'd probably be doing the same thing.
Shifting gears a little bit, Players Inc. I don't know, you've done a ton of stuff for Players Inc. over the years. What's the best experience you've had with a licensee or sponsor of an event that you've been to?
I think my first experience before I even stepped foot on a team, I think after the draft when we went to the, I think it was Orlando for like the, rookie premiere. That was one of the best experiences. It still replays in my mind how much fun we had that weekend with all the guys. Me and Reggie Wayne, we was sitting there. We was playing against. I know I played against Freddie Mitchell, and Reggie played against Mike Vick, I think, in one of the little football challenges. And we got down to the last game to end up playing each other, and both of us lost fluke plays. It was two close football games, and we went from losing to commentating the next game. So me and Reggie was a great commentator, man. He went up there and he did his thing, and I was right behind him, just being a sidekick that night. But it was just fun, man, to have that experience with all the guys that you pretty much watched or played against in college. Getting a chance to be on that level with them at the same time at the same venue.
As an NFL player, how do you think you help build sponsors' businesses? In other words, I don't know what commercials you've done or appearances, but so,
I think we help in many ways.
hang on a sec. Just, yeah. So anyway, do you let me back up and ask you a different one. Do you have an example of a fan kind of commenting on your involvement in with a sponsor? So in other words, were you involved with a sponsor and they kind of told you how much how much they enjoyed having you involved with them?
Well, I haven't been involved with many, and the little that I do is not nothing big when it comes across that you don't see it on commercials or nothing like that. I think the one commercial that I have been on, it was the ESPN commercial 2 years ago. I think it was 2003 season, right before the season, when all of us was on a float with Barry Sanders and everything, and they was kind of promoting that new ESPN, Red Zone, this and that. It was a fun event, but I think when the players get selected to do things like that, it helps in a lot of ways because, you have so many people looking up to these guys, for what they do on the field and pretty much not knowing who they are as a person, but just, their accolades on the field. So, you get people on the outside just wanting to look in and watch whatever they're a part of. And you might not know nothing about what they're, sponsoring or, being obligated to, be a part of or do. But you kind of get, lured into it and saying, well, that's the guy that I look up to. That's the guy that I like to watch. So you end up knowing a little more about the product that he might be out there, sponsoring or the product that's sponsoring him. So I think we help in a lot of ways when it comes down to that.
Terrific. You ready to play 20 questions?